some of the best lines that I've ever gotten that you can use in the sales process that I bring up all the time. It's questions like, I mean, Reed Davis is the one that gave me this one. It's, hey, how are you doing with all of this? That has
Hmm.
nothing to do with the room, the amenity, the nothing. Just how are you doing with this? This is really tough. Like you're doing a really good job. Or, hey, why would you even think about leaving your current situation? Like it seems like it's a great one. And just those, again, to get the prospect in the mindset of let's really talk about what is really bothering you. Like,
Yeah.
especially in our communities, like none of the folks that are in our database, we like paid for a list that got dumped in there and we're telling people to cold call. Like I
Hmm.
constantly remind our team, it's like all of these folks asked for help.
Welcome to The Move In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. When families walk through your doors, do they feel like they're being sold to or supported? Hello, I'm Larry Williams, and welcome to the Move In Senior Living Marketing powered by Unlock Health. In senior living, sales teams have the opportunity to be a trusted guide during one of life's most emotional transitions. When done with empathy, clarity, and care, the sales process becomes more than a transaction. It becomes a source of support and reassurance for families when they need it most. Today, I sat down with Nick Jasmon, Vice President and partner at Elevate Senior Living, for a conversation that goes beyond sales tactics. From starting out doing yard work at a community to helping build a growing portfolio of high impact properties, Nick has seen firsthand how genuine, human centered experiences can transform the way we serve seniors and their families. In this conversation, we explored how to lead with empathy in every conversation and why the entire team, not just sales, shapes the experience, and how aligning marketing and sales can build trust and close the gap between interest and movement. Whether you're on the front lines or behind the scenes, this conversation will challenge you to rethink how your community connects and why that connection is everything. Let's get into it. We are on the move in senior living marketing. We got Nick Jasmon. Nick, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. Nick is the VP and partner at Elevate Senior Living. Nick, thank you again. And tell us a little bit about yourself and Elevate Senior Living.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Elevate Senior Living, we're the answer to affordable senior living in the marketplace. We're a new development senior living community. We have a location in Clearwater, Florida that's been open for a little bit over a year, and we're just trying to provide a high-end product that is both within reach and beyond expected. So excited
Oh,
to talk with you all today.
that's awesome. And if you're on LinkedIn, there's a good chance you've seen Nick. You've seen his memes. He likes to joke around about the entire sales experience, and I appreciate that, Nick. And in our paths have crossed at different conferences. And as we were really working on a few things with this podcast, I kept seeing your name on LinkedIn. I was like, I feel like Nick has something to say, and I want to reach out to Nick and get his feedback. And you did. I said, Nick, hey, we know each other. I'd like to have you on the podcast because I love the content you share. I said, what's something that you would like to share with the community? And you mentioned the controlling and raising the experience in the senior living shopping experience. So excited to jump into that, and we'll also get into some of the sales side and get some your input there. So again, thanks for being a part of this. And hey, before we go into those next steps, tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to this point of being the VP and partner at Elevate.
Yeah, so I started working in senior living around when I was like 19 years old, just being an intern, working through both the corporate office and then in the community. Since then, I've kind of navigated through different community works and vendor partnerships. And 8 years ago, started working with my family. So we're a family-owned and operated business, and have been building up from we had zero buildings when I started. I think we had four like pie in the sky hopeful communities would maybe come out of it we started, and now we have 12 communities under our belt and looking to add some more. So been have done everything from yard work at a community, senior living sales, running the operations, doing the financial calls, dealing with resident family concerns, both the goods and the bad. So been doing it for a while, and excited, and I love senior living. I don't want to do anything else.
I love that, and it's interesting. That's a common theme. Someone gets into it early, and like you said, you're doing yard work. Sometimes being in the dining hall, or helping in a variety of ways, and you just grow up with it, and you find this passion. And I'm always been inspired by that message. And thank you for what all you're doing. And I also think that kind of leads us in the conversation of really why you're looking to really raise the game in that experience when it comes to the shopping of senior living. So, just curious, like, why is that the thing that's on your heart? And I'd like to kind of start at that point because when you said that, I'm like, man, we do need to talk about this. Like, we talk about different marketing activations, we talk about data, but let's talk about that experience and how that continues to change.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the the reason I think it's so important is if we really ask ourselves the question and be honest about it, nobody that purchases our product, being, hey, the rooms, our communities, whatever, is super excited about having to purchase our product, right? Typically, even if you're an independent living all the way through assisted memory care and even active adult, this is a transitionary purchase that's a very emotional one that involves a lot of different family members. And most of the time, you're not super jazzed up about moving into a senior living community.
Mhm.
So for us, like the experience of, hey, whether or not you're going to choose our community or the one down the street, we want to make sure that if you interact with us, you're going to have a tremendous experience of finding the right solution for you. So you're going to leave, hey, feeling like we helped you, feeling like you were communicated honestly, you had all the information to make the decision, and that we were there for any of the random crazy questions, both pre move in and then following up post move in. If we can't show our prospects at the beginning of the process when we're trying to like kind of date them and really get them excited about what we are, why would they ever think that we're going to do it after they move in?
Yeah.
And even if they choose a different community, they then have a different positive experience around this entire buying process. I can't tell you how many folks that, while we've been super blessed that they've chose to come to our community, one of our communities besides the one that they were living in, the just negative experience they had that could have been controllable, could have been a misunderstanding, um, and anything in between. But just, hey, if we're able to control that at the beginning, even if they do leave us for whatever reason, the next person they're going to talk to is going to make their life easier. And that I think we struggle with in senior living. We do like to hold on to our leads and like they're ours and they're only going to stay with us and we're right. We know what's best for them. And we don't do enough listening to the things that they are going through and the things that they're, working through and even what the family members are going through. I mean, when I started working in senior living in 19, one of the buildings I worked at, I was intern just doing activities and I was sitting next to a resident. It was a memory care community, and she was holding one of the little white fluffy dogs that I can never remember what breed they are, but she was petting it and telling me it was a golden retriever named Lucky, and she was super excited about her dog coming. And I was just like any other 19-year-old, picture yourself, that was me. It was like, okay, this is a little weird. And I left to go do an intern thing, get coffee, make a copy, something like that. And the
Sure.
daughter came in to visit her mom. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Like, didn't think that was real. And the resident looked at her daughter and said, who in the blank are you? And scooted away in her wheelchair, and the daughter just looked like she was carrying like a 50-pound weight vest on her shoulders.
Wow.
Um, so I went over and told her, after being, encouraged by the executive director of the building, who actually is the executive director right now at our community in Clearwater. And he told me, hey, you have to go tell her what she just told you. She'll really appreciate it. So I walked over there and said, hey, I've been talking with your mom all day. Um, and she was super excited to see you. Like, I saw what happened. I just felt like you should know. I mean, she was really excited. She kept talking about this dog named Lucky that you would love to hear about. And then the resident's family member just started crying. I panicked, as any 19-year-old who would
19,
relate.
yeah,
She
for sure.
just started crying in front of her.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry, what did I do? And she told me, like, hey, my mom's been living here for 3 years. I come here every day and she does something like that every time I come see her. And I was about to stop coming to see her. And she hasn't talked about that dog in years. That dog was the dog I had when I was 10.
Wow.
Um, so the fact that she still knows, like, hey, I'm coming, and she's excited, and that dog, I mean, I'm gonna keep coming back. You revived the hope. After that, I was hooked, and it reminds me every now and then of just like, hey, all of these folks are going through something,
Yeah.
and if we can just make this experience a little bit better for them, we can not only like help more family members retain our occupancy at a higher level, but also create more advocates to make the entire sales and marketing process so much easier. So we're not constantly going over, you know, tour to move in, inquiry to move in, tour to like lease or whatever. I mean, at some point, the numbers just it's taken away a little bit of the person, and we're just
Sure.
spending sometimes too much time in those numbers.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that. And I think about that experience for you, Nick. And I'm sure that was a guiding light going into your future and really what you wanted that experience to be. And I'm sure that stays in the back of your mind all the time. And furthermore, I think about the bigger picture. And like you said, it's not just about your communities, but the narrative of senior living. And I feel like we need to raise the bar just because if someone has a bad experience over here, it's going to affect the way they see senior living and aging services across the board.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in the tour process, I talk a lot with our sales folks that, hey, you can do everything right in the tour, and sometimes the tour won't go well or you won't get that close because of something you could have not controlled. I mean, think about like the workforce that we have, our caregivers, we all know the statistics, right? They work on average 1.5 jobs. They're usually a single mom. They tend to not have the highest education level when we're talking about paper degrees, right? They're
Sure.
amazing human beings and they do God's work, but I can't tell you how many times that the caregiver's had a really tough day in her personal life, or just something's going on. She's tired and she's been walking in between different ADLs that she's checking off or logging into her EHR, and you
Yeah.
know, kind of gives the tour a little bit of a blank look. The tour thinks that it's a nasty look that she gave, and we don't get the move it. And
Mm.
that's educating not just the rest of our staff, but also educating, our sales team of like, hey, this is a really sensitive decision they're making. Something as little as like, hey, a look that maybe wasn't intended that way. Again, they're worried about how are they going to pay their bills, what they got going on at home, but it's something just as little as that can change their entire opinion of this. So if we're extra diligent about discovery, about understanding who they are, and how they're experiencing buying this product, um,
Yeah.
like it can make the transaction that we all want a lot easier, but can help the next community and help the people that are coming forward in the future.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying all that. And really going to that deeper dive of the emotional side of it. Because like you said, this it's not all data points. Yeah, we rely on
Yeah.
data. We want to see the tour to move in. We want to see the conversion rates. But when it's all said and done, it's people with emotions and going through a very tough process. And I appreciate you mentioning the listening side as one of the most important aspects and something we far too often forget. It's like I think deep down it's easy to get caught up and taken to that next step. But I'll tell you the word that came to mind I wrote down as you're mentioning all this is empathy. I feel like having an empathetic, I don't know, mindset with every conversation is so important. I feel like that's something you learned over time. I think about that story you just told about when you were 19 and just how that seemed like that was some foundational building block moments for you and for your career going forward. Is that something with your sales teams you try to really, I don't know, encourage, which is empathy and having that mindset starting there and working your way out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in the interview process for us, like I will not put a person forward unless I feel like they can demonstrate the ability to see, understand, or really be able to like kind of gauge and show empathy. That is a
Yeah.
huge thing. I don't care if they've ever done a sales call in their life. If they can show me that hey, you can be empathetic, you can communicate well, and you have like any amount of desire to, be better in what you're doing, you can be on my team, right? We can spend the
Yeah.
time and talk through, hey, this is what the ratios you want. This is how you do the tour. This is what you should do from a cadence standpoint. But the sales are closed at the end of the day with those really soft questions that have nothing to do with floor plans, amenities, or pricing.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the best lines that I've ever gotten that you can use in the sales process that I bring up all the time. One, I've stolen from so many other people, but like
We
they're
all
all
share.
none.
You're not stealing
Yeah,
it.
we
We're
all share.
sharing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we all share. I tell them all the time that I steal their stuff, but I mean, there's stuff that has nothing to do with any of that. It's questions like, I mean, Reed Davis is the one that gave me this one. It's, hey, how are you doing with all of this? That has
Hmm.
nothing to do with the room, the amenity, the nothing. Just how are you doing with this? This is really tough. Like you're doing a really good job. Or, hey, why would you even think about leaving your current situation? Like it seems like it's a great one. And just those, again, to get the prospect in the mindset of let's really talk about what is really bothering you. Like,
Yeah.
especially in our communities, like none of the folks that are in our database, we like paid for a list that got dumped in there and we're telling people to cold call. Like I
Hmm.
constantly remind our team, it's like all of these folks asked for help.
Yeah.
So
They
we
they
need to
put
be
their
the one
hand
to
up.
help them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and it's okay to reach out and provide guidance, and always think about being that Sherpa who guide them along that way. It's funny you mentioned Reed Davis because I felt like a lot of what you said earlier, man, was like that reminded me of my conversation with Reed Davis, and
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said, and in the that statement of how are you doing with all of this? That's really powerful, and I think that goes beyond sales, but saying I care about you as a person, and let's actually slow down and understand where you stand in this, whether it's the family member or the resident themselves. And I think that's really powerful, so you can actually build rapport and make sure everybody's on the same page. Do you what are some do you have any other I say best practices when it comes to really just making sure everybody's on the same page and making a seamless user experience that provides calmness in everyone's hearts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing and you can go about it in different ways, and I at least remind folks, it's like, hey, if I say it this way, I can say it that way because I like know how it feels in my chest and my heart saying it. Like you need to say what I'm saying in a different way that feels the same way to you. But really it's just like, hey, what are your expectations around this? Like what ultimately is causing you to make this decision? How many people are involved in this? I mean, I post a lot about the out of state family member that is the bane of my existence. But like asking that question, like, hey, do you have any siblings that are helping you with this? Do you have friends that are helping you with this? Or do you have a sibling that's not on board with you? Do you have a
Mhm.
sibling that is really going like, I mean, this is interesting just in the like, the dynamics of family systems, but do you have a family member that is like really scared about this price because they're really maybe a little bit more worried about the inheritance stuff? I mean, that
Mhm.
that is a sucky topic to bring up, but I can't tell you how many folks that's a reality in senior living. Anyone listening to this probably knows, but is that something that you're going to have to navigate through? How can I be assistance of that? Does it mean like, hey, you're going to go talk to your brother or your sister who cares about that? Do you need me to give you like so much information of how this is a good decision? Or do you need me to just be on the call with you as an advocate? Or do you need me to be a cheerleader in the background
Yeah.
with that? And involving the rest of your team too. Because you could have an executive director who maybe isn't the best sales executive director that's ever existed, but they are really good at connecting with family members. Hey,
Mhm.
I've gone through this journey, and let me tell you what other families have gone through. You
Yeah.
could have a nurse that is like, hey, sales scares me. I think, everything should be free and we should just live in this amazing staffing ratio
Yeah.
that doesn't ever work on paper. But hey, this is the care stuff that you're going to encounter. Like, if you're already here, this is what your next 6 months is going to look like. And go down the list of team members. I mean, even culinary managers and maintenance directors who don't always get a lot of shine in this process, they've been in these buildings just as long, if not longer, than some of your staff members. And they get to connect with folks in such a different way. In culinary, they're feeding them. Everyone is happy around meals. Big life events are around meals. And even maintenance directors, they're solving a problem that a lot of our seniors probably are embarrassed to have to ask for because they hung a picture on their wall for years until
Mhm.
probably 5 years ago.
Sure.
And, they used to be able, maybe they were a tradesperson, so they did all this stuff themselves, and asking for help from somebody else that they don't know that well is a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, so just involving your team members in that, from the beginning, and then it makes like when they get into the community and they're a resident for you and there's a problem that comes up, because there will be. I mean, everybody's moved into a housing place and there's been a problem. It makes that initial conversation a lot better because you built that relationship at the front end, instead of, oh, I feel like I was promised something and now immediately something's broken and you guys tricked me and
Yeah.
now I'm stuck in this lease for however long the terms are.
And that's never gonna be good. That's
Yeah.
you're just setting up it's a lot of damage, whether
Yeah.
it's in that situation, reviews, reputation, and also going back to the narrative. They feel like they were, I'll say, hoodwinked, if they ever get into
Yeah.
that, about going forward with other senior living communities. And I just wrote down transparency. I think transparency
Hmm.
always wins the day, and a lot of times transparency will help in the sales process by just really aligning the fit to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Hmm.
I appreciate all of that information you provided because it's so important, and to understand the emotional impact. Like you said, like the hanging the picture on the wall. It's stuff like that. That's a big thing. It's not a small
Yeah.
detail. That's significant. Think about where sales is, and what leads up to it and what comes after it. I'd love to see if you had any advice for the marketing side of things. I know we keep kind of leaning into the sales side and really think about that experience, but is there a way marketing, or in your feedback, marketing can really set up sales for a better experience, with these prospective residents?
Yeah. I mean, I think for marketers, like, the one thing that's really great about marketers is they have a lot of knowledge around systems and technology and messaging that the rest of us like don't have. Like, I'm a more of a sales focused person, and we have different marketing partners or team members that I am just in awe of like, how in the world did you do that? You can just have my login and do it for me. But I mean, I think the best way to kind of help enable them is to talk to the folks on the ground and see what they're experiencing, the questions they're getting, and how can you work side by side. I make jokes a little bit of like, oh, marketing tried sales as big marketing idea and it doesn't work. And God forbid it works at all. But hearing them and saying like, okay, so if sales is hearing this question a lot or this concern a lot, how can we go about creating content that can answer some of those questions?
I
How
like
can
that.
we go about um, getting creating less barriers of entry to get people to talk to them? How can we go about qualifying the leads, not so that sales has to talk to less people to get to more move-ins, but just, hey, qualifying them in the sense of, this is how I need to start the conversation.
Sure.
Not, do I even have to have one? No. Hey, if we can know when the lead comes in that they are really price conscious, we need to talk about pricing right away.
Mhm.
Or if we need to, or if we know at the beginning, like, hey, they've been going through a lot, we need to really get in there and massage that emotional stuff. Because if we tell them the price right now, first of all, they're going to freak out because of how expensive it is. But number two, they're not going to hear everything else that you tell them after that.
Sure.
So we really need to focus on that first.
Yeah, it's like that. I think about those specific hurdles at the beginning to make the rest of the process a lot smoother. Even if you're not
Mhm.
the right fit, at least you addressed it earlier and didn't set the stage for something that ultimately is not going to be a win for both parties.
Right.
And now I kind of want to transition that into the operation side. I feel like you have so much, this knowledge I really appreciate. I'd love to get your feedback on really how can sales and operations really come together. I had the conversation with Evan Coe about this, and I'm sure you can add some more clarity and feedback on that. And because that's a big part of the experience. Like at sales, you don't want to overpromise, you don't want to underpromise. You really want to set the stage, but do you have any feedback on that? I'm sure there will be some conversations about, adding data into CRMs, and also just, setting the stage for a good handoff so everyone feels supported and so it would be a win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that operations can do to help sales is really just making sure that their sales is under the same understanding of what they're able to provide as what sales is promising. So
Hmm.
there's alignment there. But really, what I think and what I tell our salespeople on the sales side that we can do to help operations is we need to first understand that our position, the sales position in the senior living community, is the only job in the building that when we do our job extremely well, our job gets easier and everyone else's job gets harder. What I mean by
Yeah.
that is every move in that we get, that's one less room we have to fill. And
Hmm.
we get a commission, et cetera. But that's one additional care plan the nurse has to do. That's one additional room the maintenance director has to turn. That's one additional meal that the culinary manager has to both make the meal and figure out how to fit in their budget. The life engagement manager has to integrate them into their activity system. The caregivers have more people to take care of, right? But our job on sales, it gets easier and we get all the praise, right? We get like, oh, great job, great moving, awesome. So understanding that, hey, the only way we're going to fill our building is if all of those folks help us. And so we need to go over the top with helping them in every opportunity we can. Now, that does not mean like salesperson do the business office manager's job for them so they'll like you, but it does mean like, hey, how, asking the question the same way you do with a prospect. Hey, I got 30 minutes before the tour is coming. Everything is checked off, everything's good. Talking to the caregiver and saying, hey, how can I help you today? What
Hmm.
are you doing today? Or talking to your executive director, hey, is everything going good? Do you need me to help with something? Or hey, I'm going and doing outreach this afternoon. Do you need me to go run by the store to go pick something up for the party
Yeah,
that you were supposed to do? Those little things just like one takes the load off the operations folks that ultimately are the ones that are going to get burned out the fastest. But then two, when you ask them for that thing that sales need, because we're very needy salespeople, we need all of
yeah,
our stuff immediately and we're the most important
yes,
person in the world. Like they're going to be a lot more apt to help you with that
for
if
sure.
you're helping them first and giving before you're getting, versus if you run in and to the maintenance director and you're like, I need the room flipped right now because the tour is coming in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, the maintenance director should tell you to go kick rocks.
And if you ever have to do that, if it is last minute, if you build up enough goodwill with operations, with everyone, they're more likely to jump those hurdles
Oh yeah.
when you need them. But you just can't do it all the time.
Well,
It
they're
has to
bought
be
in. Yeah.
far and few between.
Yeah, they're bought in. They know like you're coming at it from the sales standpoint as a team. Like, hey, this is a
Mhm.
team thing. We're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
And I think just reaching your hand across and being, it's always helpful. I think when sales starts that conversation and get feedback from whether it's operations or marketing to start those conversations, instead of just trying to set the pace and saying everybody get behind me and just follow in line. It's
Yeah.
like you said, it's a team. We have to we have to really operate and be organized as a team. And that leads me to a quick question, which is, do you recommend having I'd say routine meetings with different team members, whether it's sales and operations, or just these one-on-ones, especially as you're preparing for a move in? What advice do you have on that front?
Yeah, I mean, so we just switched to EOS in our community. So we just have for meetings like one standard, they're called L10 meetings with the entire group. We eliminated stand up from our communities. But the thing that I think is the best when a prospect's moving in and how do we communicate the rest of the team members, as they're doing the tour process, you're making introductions to them as you go. Whether that's introducing them to the culinary manager during the tour to give them the sweet treat that you give at the end, or you're having life engagement conveniently run into you during the tour with amazingly a calendar that has their
Mhm.
favorite activity circled, all those normal stuff that we do. But hey, while you're like signing the paperwork at the community or helping walking through it, having your executive director, come in and help do it, having your business office manager come and help and answer some of the questions. If we get to a part in the lease that kind of falls into that, business office side, hey, why don't we pick up the lease and go over to their office and say, hey, Brittany, can you answer this question? Like, I want to make sure I'm telling correctly. By the way, Brittany, this is our newest family member, and
Yeah.
start that relationship immediately so that, again, hey, as the prospect has moved into the community, they're meeting all these folks. The barrier or the time from them calling the salesperson to calling the person they should be calling shortens. I like, at least for our salespeople, to think like you have 90 days after they move in to make them so confident in your team that they never have to call you again
Yeah,
until they
for
have
sure.
somebody else they're recommending for your building.
I love that. And just wrote down, making the resident feel valued. And which made me think about, far too often we think about salespeople having a personality or being a
Yeah.
good speaker, having a little pizzazz, right? But the things that I heard today from you, and I completely agree with, is the best salespeople are good listeners, and they're empathetic, and they're organized. And I think about
Yeah.
what you just said about really setting up that scene. And it goes back to what you said, which is so important, which is, that great experience. If you can get all the pieces together, whether it's for that little treat, during that tour, or to meet others on the team, if it's done right, it flows really well, and it makes everyone really stand out, and it creates a win for the organization as a whole. And I think that's so powerful. And going back to the being organized side, it goes from not just organizing the tour, organizing that, but like you said, it's really some of the data in the CRM. If you do all that right, you have that information that stays
Oh
with
yeah.
that resident going forward.
Hmm.
And but I know it's hard as a sales leader to keep pushing that button to get salespeople to continue to enter in that information.
Yeah.
It,
There is a tie, like you get if you can get these really good listeners and these really empathetic and they're, pretty personable and they're good talking to folks, they are really bad at documentation. It's amazing.
yeah,
Like
it's
even
I'm
even myself, it's just like, hey
I'm
guys,
one of the worst. Yeah,
we gotta
we
update
got to
it.
do
We
it.
gotta put it
Yes.
in there. Yeah.
It's funny. It's even on the sales leadership side. It's like I get it, but you have to do it. And
Please.
let me ask you this, because one thing that's helped me is just put it on my calendar. Every Wednesday to update this. Every Friday do this. Do you try to recommend like a certain cadence to that, or I know everybody's different, but I feel like if you can kind of place that on your calendar, it makes it a
Yeah.
lot easier.
I mean, I tell my team, it's like, "Hey, I'm not exactly the most efficient with how I do it." Like, I still have to write things down when I'm on the phone. I can write faster than I type. But
Same
what I
here.
tell them, like, "Hey, this is kind of where you need to your bare minimum mindset. When you leave on Friday for the weekend, hey, we're out the door. We're excited about our weekend. We're going to go do a ton or absolutely nothing, depending on that week.
Yeah.
Like all of your stuff is up to date. So that
Yeah.
when you come in Monday, hey, you know what you have to do. You have all your stuff up to date. You're not starting your week off behind, because then what happens, at least what I've noticed in our teams, like we ask them to do a lot of community outreach. And I recommend them, like, don't say you're going to do outreach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because guess when all the walk-in tours and the emergencies tend to happen on
Yeah.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you're so far behind at that point. So it's just, hey, you're chipping away at this every single day. This is something you do every day. In our handbook, our daily, weekly, monthly responsibilities, daily update CRM, weekly update CRM, monthly update CRM. It is something you do every single day, so that you can set yourself up for success. And it's not just like saying, I called X for this amount of time. It's, okay, I have a call coming up with, Norma in an hour. Let me look at what I've talked with Norma
Hmm.
last.
Sure.
Hey, I think that she's ready to move at this pace, but based on the call and some of my notes, there was a little bit that I need to get more answers around this.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I need to schedule a tour. I've asked her 3 or 4 times now. Why won't she schedule the tour with me? Is it proximity? Is it, that she's scared? Even I've even suggested to some people, like, just say, like, hey, do you just need me to come pick you up? I can pick you up right now. I'll hang up
Yeah.
this phone. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I know where your address is because you gave it to me. And just trying to eliminate those barriers, right? But if you have
Absolutely.
that time to, hey, look at it and say, okay, well, this is what I've done. This is what I need to do. How do I get there?
Yeah. I think about it in like playing sports. Coaches aren't stepping up game time and be like, all right, let's see what's going to work here. Let's
Yeah.
no, there's always data that backs up and information on previous plays. And like you said, just getting into that habit. I think the Friday's good and just double checking. For me, I like looking at things Sunday night. Not spending a ton of time, just kind of getting a playbook for the week and just understanding what I need to do that week. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of a quote. It's first you build habits, and then they'll build you. And I feel like it's kind of the same mindset. So question for you, Nick. It's we've gone down the rabbit hole of sales, creating that great client experience from marketing all the way through operations. But one thing that I know about you, and I deeply appreciate, is that you do like to keep the sales side fun. And you're a sales guy. You understand the struggles. You've been in the seat. But one thing I appreciate is that you also like to keep it fun. Now, I got to ask, like, where does that start stem from? Because you like having these memes on LinkedIn. I highly recommend people connect and follow Nick, and you can see some of these. But it just kind of keeps things lighthearted. But is how important is that to you as really the culture side when it comes to the organization in the sales department?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's important to me because like I said at the beginning, like no one's super excited about purchasing
Yeah.
these particular products. And in sales, there's a lot of pressure. I joke with some of our operations folks, it's like, hey, it might look like we get to go do outreach and happy hours and all this stuff. And, my wife gives me a bunch of slack at conferences, like, you're not working. I was like, but we are. It's just different. There's a lot
Yes.
of pressure you don't get to see. So, if we're going to have all this pressure and we're going to have to show up to these things, why can't we make it a little bit more fun?
Hmm.
And at least for me, I've always liked, making fun of myself. All my friends have that same kind of humor. And, we see all the stuff on social media of how to do it. So I decided like, hey, I want to start putting stuff out there because I kept seeing other people do it, and maybe this would be a good way to market our company. And
Yeah.
was like, why don't I just start making jokes because nobody else is doing it? I couldn't compete with James Lee's LinkedIn post. I wasn't gonna
Nobody
beat him at
can.
that. No, yeah, nobody can beat him. I don't know how he does it. But I can enjoy that.
Sure.
Sunday night, my wife will make fun of me. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm making my little memes."
Yeah. You're like, I'm having
And
fun.
I'm having fun. I'm
Yeah.
making little jokes to myself. But yeah, I mean, for our team members, hey, if you can break up, those really tough conversations of like,
Yeah.
hey, we're not getting enough results out of this. We're not moving the dial where we have to, with something that's a little bit more fun so that, hey, they're at least not dreading that call if they're not behind their numbers. Or when you are hitting your numbers and you're doing a great job and your community's thriving, you're already, that much more excited because you've been having fun this whole time.
Yeah.
And it helps the prospects too. I mean, I
For
can't tell you
sure.
how many times I've gotten a check from a prospect because I just made a joke. It's like, well, hey,
Yeah.
and what are we even doing here? Are
Man,
you just
yeah, it's
what dragging me
contagious.
along?
Well, it's contagious. That energy and having fun, people want to be around that for the most part. And I think that's something that just spread that idea of just connecting and enjoying what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, especially in sales, it's going to show.
Oh yeah,
And people can feel that. And I appreciate that. Just like you said, be a person. I think far
yeah,
too often, it's how you started this conversation, Nick, which is sometimes we get a little too caught up in KPIs, we get too caught up in data. This is a people, business. We're dealing with people, very emotional, emotional time in their lives amongst a lot of people who are making these decisions. I think it's good just to bring in your own personality. And I appreciate you doing that on LinkedIn. I appreciate you said, James, we have so many really thought leaders who bring that. And I think it really showcases across the landscape of senior living, especially I think about someone like you. And there's a lot of other leaders who are younger who are just bringing I'd say a breath of fresh air to this
mhm,
industry. So thank you for that. Um,
thank you.
so do you have any parting advice for whether it's sales leaders, sales teams, senior living as a whole that you'd like to share? I'd love to hear some like that last bit of think about this from Nick Jasmine.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the biggest thing that has always helped me and what I tell our team members is just focus on controlling what you can control.
Yeah.
Whether you're a sales leader, you can just control how much you pour into your team, with your attitude and how much effort you're going to go about trying to put the best team members or give them the best tools. For, community sales folks, you can control, hey, I'm going to come into work today with the best attitude I got today, and I'm going to try my best, and where the results fall where they are. And, for anybody else in senior living, hey, we can control the attitude we're telling our team members, in tough times, and the amount of effort we're going to put forth trying to solve the problems that we keep talking about, whether it's, raising occupancy, affordability, different types of care, wellness, value-based care, anything like that. I mean, we control our effort and we control our attitude around it. And wherever the chips fall, they fall.
That's great advice, and I really appreciate that. That's the hardest thing about sales. So sometimes we feel like we're trying to control the uncontrollable, but if you
Yeah.
just focus on what you can control, I think that's a win within itself. Easier said than done. So
Yeah,
I want to wrap it up
definitely.
with yeah, again, these are the four takeaways when it comes to being a professional salesperson, which is listen, be empathetic, start with empathy, be organized. That's so key. And again, us salespeople, we struggle with it at
Yeah.
times. And then just the attitude, have the right attitude, step up and don't take it personal. You got some detachment and just focus on the controllables. I think that's a huge win. Nick, thank you. You shared so much information, so much wisdom. I'm so glad that I reached out to you just to say I think you have something to say, and you did, and I appreciate you, Nick. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or learn more about what all you're doing at Elevate Senior Living?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, obviously. And then if you want to learn more about Elevate Senior Living, go to elevateseniorliving.com or ahmg365.com. You can find us
That's
both
great.
there.
That's awesome. Nick, I appreciate you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap on today's episode with Nick Jasmon. What a powerful reminder that in senior living, how we connect is just as important as what we offer. Whether you're in sales, marketing, or operations, this conversation really challenged us to rethink how we show up for families in the moments that truly matter. Before we go, here are 3 actionable takeaways that I took notes of during this conversation. First, start every interaction with empathy. Simple questions like, "How are you doing with all of this?" can open the door to trust and real connection. Second, involve the full team early. Sales isn't a solo act. Families feel more supported when they meet culinary, care, and the engagement teams during the process. And third, use sales feedback to guide marketing. What prospects are feeling and asking should directly shape the messages that we put into the world. Thank you again to Nick for the inspiration and encouragement. And until next time, let's go make some meaningful connections.